Back in episode 99, I told you the tale of old Black Bart, a man that tweren't much good except in the end as vulture bait. But during the story of that mean old cowpoke, there were a couple of critters that I mentioned, only briefly really, in a passing kind of way. So today I want to circle on back and take a closer look at those two critters. One is an arthropod, an arachnid with a venomous sting. The other one's a mammal, a rodent, pound for pound, or more accurately, ounce for ounce, maybe the toughest rodent on the planet. And while you wouldn't think that these two would have much in common, they are forever linked in what is, for lack of a better term, an evolutionary arms race, each species evolving to try and keep up with or get an advantage over the other. What critters am I talking about? The Arizona bark scorpion and the grasshopper mouse. And I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, and this is the Dispatches from the Forest podcast. Let's start with the scorpion. The evolutionary history of scorpions goes back about 435 million years. Scorpions are predatory arachnids. Think of them as a spider's introverted but more menacing cousin. They come with 8 legs, a pair of grasping pincers, and a narrow segmented tail usually carried in a characteristic forward curve over their back. And that tail has a venomous stinger on the end. They primarily prey on insects and other invertebrates, but some species do hunt vertebrates. They use their pinchers and venomous sting to restrain and kill prey, and also to defend themselves against their own predators. They mainly live in deserts, but have adapted to a wide range of environmental conditions and are found on all continents except Antarctica. The Arizona bark scorpion specifically is a small, light brown scorpion. Adult males get to be just over 3 inches or 8 centimeters long, while the females are slightly smaller with a maximum length just under 3 inches, about 7 centimeters long. They're found in the Sonoran Desert in the southwestern United States and northwestern Mexico. Their range includes southern California, southern Arizona, southern Nevada, extreme southwestern Utah, and western New Mexico, along with Baja California, Sonora, and Chihuahua, Mexico. They prefer riparian areas with mesquite, cottonwood, and sycamore groves, all of which have sufficient moisture and humidity to support their prey of small to medium-sized animals like beetles, spiders, crickets, cockroaches, other insects, and even other scorpions. But Arizona bark scorpions are particularly well adapted to desert life. For one thing, layers of wax on their exoskeleton help limit water loss. Then they're nocturnal, hiding out during the heat of the day under rocks, wood piles, or tree bark. They also burrow and tend to get into people's houses because they can fit through an opening of just a 16th of an inch, 2 millimeters. In fact, the popularity of irrigated lawns, which tends to increase environmental humidity in residential areas, has led to a massive increase in the number of bark scorpions in some places. And if that's not an advertisement for xeric or low water landscaping in desert areas, I don't know what is. Plus, the genus of scorpions that includes the Arizona bark scorpion are unusual because they're the only genus of scorpions in the southwestern United States that can climb walls, trees, and other rough-surfaced objects. In fact, Arizona bark scorpions practice something called negative geotaxis, which is a fancy way of saying they prefer to be upside down, which often ends up with people getting stung because the scorpion is hiding on the underside of an object. And we'll talk about that sting in just a second. Female scorpions give birth to live young, 25 to 35 at a time, which are gently guided onto their mother's back. They'll stay with their mother for the next 3 weeks or so until their first molt. Life expectancy in the wild is about 6 years, but scorpions are incredibly resilient. When the United States was testing nuclear weapons in the desert back in the 1950s, scorpions, along with cockroaches and some lizards, were found near ground zero, having not only survived, but showing no apparent adverse effects. Radioactive or not, Arizona bark scorpions, like most other scorpions, will fluoresce when exposed to black light, as long as they're not newly molted. It takes a few days after molting for this phenomenon to start showing up. This is especially useful if you're trying to find them. Since Arizona bark scorpions are active at night, they can be easily spotted using a UV LED flashlight, which will make a scorpion glow from about 6 feet or 1.8 meters away. Okay, let's talk about that sting. The Arizona bark scorpion is the most venomous scorpion in North America. In an adult human, the bark scorpion's venom can cause severe pain coupled with numbness, tingling, shortness of breath, and vomiting, typically lasting 1 to 3 days. Temporary dysfunction in the area that got stung is also common. A hand or an arm might be either immobilized or even experience convulsions. And due to the extreme pain induced, many victims describe sensations of electrical jolts after getting stung. Now, thankfully, these stings are rarely fatal. While thousands of people are stung each year, there have only been 2 recorded deaths in the last 60 years or so. Now, despite that formidable defense, Arizona's bark scorpions do get eaten by other animals, including bats, owls, reptiles, spiders, other scorpions, and some vertebrates, including peccaries, which are like a wild pig. Though I would imagine if they happen to get stung while they're doing it, they may not attempt to eat another one. And that brings us to the other topic of today's episode, the grasshopper mouse, in particular, the southern grasshopper mouse. The southern grasshopper mouse is a small nocturnal rodent. It has a short tail, and overall, it's not much bigger than the bark scorpion, growing to a total length of 4.7 to 6.5 inches, 12 to 16 centimeters. They're found in hot, arid valleys and scrub deserts in Mexico and the states of Arizona, California, Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah in the United States. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because that's the same as the Arizona bark scorpion. Grasshopper mice form monogamous pairs. Females give birth to their first litter, an average of 3 young, at the age of just 4 to 5 months. And while they can produce up to 6 litters a year, their reproductive life rarely lasts into their second year. According to one source, living in monogamous pairs year-round seems to shorten their lifespan, since one of the 2 partners inevitably kills the other. Yeesh! Sounds like somebody needs couples counseling. Now, several studies have shown that the reproductive attributes of grasshopper mice allow them to be naturally maintained at lower population densities. First of all, like I mentioned, the females are only sexually active for 1 breeding season. Reproductively speaking, they age rapidly after that first year. And the males are also unique because they have a pause in their testicular activity during the breeding season. So these 2 things, plus their small litter sizes, contributes to that lower population density. Now, we don't usually think about mice occupying territories like, say, wolves or other large animals, but grasshopper mice do. Adult males tend to be very territorial, and an efficient spacing between these territories is facilitated by the vocalizations that they make at night, something I'm going to talk about in just a second. A male and a female plus their offspring will occupy a larger home range compared to males and females alone. A male's home range averages about 7.8 acres, 3.2 hectares, although his range will double or even triple during the breeding season. Females occupy an area averaging 5.9 acres or 2.4 hectares and don't expand their range during the breeding season. But there are 3 things that really make this little rodent unique and, well, kind of badass. First of all is its trademark howl. Grasshopper mice have a wide range of calls that are used to indicate species, sex, and even individuals. Larger mice, for example, tend to have deeper voices. When establishing territory facing an adversary, including other grasshopper mice, or prior to making a kill, they let out a loud, piercing tone audible from over 300 feet or 100 meters away. They make this call while standing on their hind legs with their noses pointing upward. This shrill warning, often repeated, is frequently compared to a miniature wolf howl due to its smoothness, duration, and the mouse's wolf like posture when making it. The second thing that makes them unique is their diet. Southern grasshopper mice are predatory, carnivorous, and very aggressive for a rodent. And they're the only North American rodent whose diet consists primarily of arthropods. It stalks its prey like a cat, sneaking up quietly and pouncing. They have a harder time hunting in open areas because they're not the fastest. They have short legs and wide bodies, but they're much more efficient in narrow areas where maneuverability is key. Their diet is very similar to that of the bark scorpion and includes insects, worms, spiders, centipedes, snakes, and even other mice. But the featured item on the grasshopper mouse's menu is the bark scorpion itself. Which brings us to the third thing that makes these tiny predators unique. They're immune to the venom of the bark scorpion. In most animals, the bark scorpion's toxin is injected into the nervous and muscle tissues, causing disruption in the animal's sensory system. But unlike other predators of the bark scorpion, the grasshopper mouse can feed on this scorpion with impunity, even when the scorpion stings it, repeatedly, in the face. And you thought honey badgers were tough. Now, to be fair, the mouse does feel the pain of the sting briefly, but grasshopper mice have evolved sensory neurons that reject the toxins and block pain signals, actually turning the scorpion toxin from a pain inducer to a pain reliever. In fact, the grasshopper mouse's unique physiology could eventually lead to better analgesics for humans. And that, my friends, is where we'll end this episode. Thank you as always for listening. If you're enjoying the podcast and you'd like to support it, here's how you can do that. Become a patron. Subscriptions start at just $5 a month, and with 3 paid months, you get free Dispatches from the Forest merch. Find all the details at patreon.com/dispatchesfromtheforest. Donate through either PayPal or Venmo using my email address, dispatchesfromtheforest@gmail.com, which is also how you can contact me if you have a question, a comment, or a request for a future episode. You can also donate using the Cash App and the hashtag ForestNerd. You can send a check. If that's more your style, just send me a message and I'll provide you with my mailing address. And of course, there's Dispatches from the Forest merch for sale. Go check out the merch store at cafepress.com/shop/dispatches from the forest, click on products, and see all that we have to offer. Finally, you can follow Dispatches from the Forest on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, reminding you to go outside and get dirty. Dispatches from the Forest recognizes that the lands where we live, work, and recreate are the traditional homelands of the Eastern Shoshone and Northern Arapaho people. We understand that this land holds immense significance for the original stewards, Native nations, and peoples of this region. The Dispatches from the Forest podcast is a production of Dispatches from the Forest and may not be used or rebroadcast whole or in part without express written permission.